Are you ready to land your dream job in UX design, but are nervous because you dread the tricky interview questions? What if you were more prepared of what they're going to ask you and exactly what to say? I'm going to show you in this video the top 5 UX interview questions that you will most likely get and how to answer them like a pro. Okay, right off the bat, this is the question that you're most likely going to get. Tell me about yourself. This is the question where they are not, unfortunately, wanting to know where you grew up, what your dog's name is, what your favorite show on TV. Like, they don't want to know that. No, that's not what they're asking. This response, think of it as like your personal pitch. You want to pitch yourself to them. So you want to make sure you are practicing this and that you've got this one kind of ready to go at any moment. I would say, my name is Stephanie. I have been in my current role for 2 years now, where I've been really entrenched end-to-end in the design and discovery process with a specialization in third-party integrations and marketplace design. If you want to keep pitching yourself, you can also throw in something like, this role has really helped me hone my skills in creating seamless and intuitive interfaces that not only meet user needs, but business goals as well. Now I'm just looking for my next opportunity to take my career further. Something along those lines. You talk a little bit about yourself, you give a little bit of description of where you've been at in past related roles, things that you excel at, and then where you're hoping to take the next role. Don't feel like you have to say so much. This is just the start of the interview. You're gonna have more opportunity later in the interview to elaborate further. Next thing that they'll most likely ask you is, what are your strengths and weaknesses? And with this, guys, just be honest. Don't, come up with some crazy strength and a really bad weakness that puts you in a bad light. Like, you just want to be honest and kind of be a little bit self-reflective. So make sure you're thinking about these before you get to the interview. So what I would say is, one of my strengths is being a good listener. I understand how to uncover somebody's motivations and what drives them by listening to what they're saying, but also understanding what's not being said. That is often where people's end goals lie and what they're not able to express. So I feel like I do a really good job of kind of parsing that out. In terms of weaknesses, I would say I have a hard time saying no to the point where I put too much on my plate. I'm a team player. I want to help out my team and collaborate with them, but I'm learning that I need to self-regulate so I'm not overwhelming myself. So when you're talking about a weakness, make sure you have a positive spin on it. Don't say something like, oh, I just work too hard, or I'm just too detailed. That could be true, but you also want to say something that's a little bit more realistic in how you're working on it. So give the weakness, but still put a positive spin on it. So those were kind of what I'll call the warm-up questions. Now we're getting into the meat of the interview. So next thing I would be prepared for is the question, what is your design process? This question, they're trying to understand what your current process is, whether you're a bootcamp grad, whether you've been doing this for a couple years. You have a design process. That is just how you've created the work that is in your portfolio. Hopefully they've seen some parts of your portfolio by now if you're at this stage of the interview. They're just trying to understand, how do you work and whether that kind of aligns with what they're doing at their company and if it's kind of similar to theirs. They want to understand how you think. So don't let this question overwhelm you. You know what your process is. So I would just think of it as a few simple steps. You don't have to give them a detailed every little bit of everything, because they're probably well aware of the design process. They just want to know how you go about it. The first thing I like to do is understand the problem. And I do that by conducting competitive research, user feedback, user interviews, any requests that we've gotten in to really understand what is the next thing that we're tackling and why is it a problem for our users. After researching and having a solid understanding of the problem, that is when I would start to loosely brainstorm of how I can solve this problem. And so by that, I usually mean like sketching, low fidelity wireframes, just trying to think through potential ways to solve this before committing to anything. Then from there, I kind of refine my designs a little bit more, whether that's going to be a clickable prototype or just some high fidelity wireframe. I want to make sure my design is something that I can share with others to get feedback on, and eventually get to the point where I can test with our users. And whatever comes from feedback, I tend to iterate on it, whether big or small, if we have the right problem. So I can iterate as necessary depending on the feedback that we get. And then once the design is finalized and approved, that is when I really bring in my other counterparts, the development team, any go-to-market meetings that I need to have to make sure that we all sign off on the solution, that it makes sense for everybody else. And then we can kind of get to this point where we're ready to go to market with it. Anything that makes them understand that you understand the process, that you can get something from initial problem all the way up to market. This question will definitely come up due to the nature of UX design, it's going to be the question of how you collaborate with other teams. I've gotten this question in every single UX interview I've ever done. So be prepared for it. They want to make sure that you're not working in a silo by yourself and that you're able to work with other people. There's PMs, there's developers, there's marketing, just so many different facets. They just want to make sure that you are a team player. This answer, I would say something like, I've worked on cross-functional teams in all of my previous roles. And what helps me be successful is understanding that we all have different job titles and roles, and we're all coming at the problem with that perspective in mind. But at the end of the day, we all have that same goal to get that product across the finish line. I like to make sure I build a good rapport with all my teammates and to make sure I get their perspective and input on what I'm working on as early and as often as possible. And we're all working towards getting the best end product. So simple, short, to the point. This question, I think, is the toughest for sure. This question of why should we hire you / why did you apply? Why do you want to work here? Is going to require a little bit of homework about the place that you're applying to. My best advice to you would be to really position yourself and make it known to them that you are the best candidate for this job. Full stop. Think about this question as not so much about you, but what you can do for them and what value you bring to this company. I personally like to reference back to the job description along the lines of I know collaboration and problem solving were mentioned in the job description, and those are major strengths of mine. I admire that your company is the leader in productivity tools, and I know my skills and experience would align perfectly with what you guys are looking for. I have been proven to positively affect every design and every product team I've been on, and I'm just eager to bring that same level of commitment and innovation to your team as well. I'm kind of finesse a little bit more, but that's just a good base to kind of throw in what this company does, what they're looking specifically for in this role. Throw that in just to make sure it kind of brings them full circle. You're looking for this person, I am that person. That's how you really want to frame that. Bonus. They are going to ask you, do you have any questions for us? Make sure you have questions, okay? As we all know, you are interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you, and you want to get a sense of who these people are, what this company is going to potentially be like. Just have a few questions in your back pocket. Some of my go-tos that I always ask about are company culture. Why is this position open? What does the team structure look like? What are some of your past initiatives? What kind of projects were those? You want to come across as that you've done your homework, you've researched them, and you want to come across as interested and invested to being a part of this team. So you want to ask questions about what it would be like to be a part of this team. Before you even make it into that interview room, make sure your resume is actually getting seen by these hiring managers. Check out this video here where I go over the most important tips to crack the perfect UX resume.